Hey everybody, welcome back to the channel. Today we are going to be talking about diff covers. Now, I run a aftermarket Dana diff cover on my front differential. I really like this thing. It's very beefy, very robust, and when I'm going up nasty obstacles or maybe I'm on a trail I'm not as familiar with, it gives me a little bit more confidence knowing that I have got some added protection up front. Now, as far as my rear differential goes, I don't run a rear diff cover. Let me tell you why. As you know, your rear diff cover is on the back of the axle. So, in my opinion, unless you're doing a lot of four-wheeling in reverse, putting an aftermarket rear diff cover on doesn't make a lot of sense. I just don't think it gives you the added protection that you're paying for. So, I'm not saying that you shouldn't protect your rear differential. I absolutely think you should, especially if you're out there rock crawling on nasty trails. But I think instead of a rear diff cover, there's a better solution in some of the skid plate options that you see out there on the market. Now, I have a Metalcloak skid plate solution back in my garage. So let's head back there. We'll get it installed. You can take a look at it, and then you be the judge of what you think is the best option for your Jeep. All right, let's go. We've made it back to the garage, and what I have behind me is Metalcloak's Jeep JL M220 rear diff skid plate. Now, I am not affiliated with Metalcloak. I'm not sponsored. I've paid for this with my own money. But I will say I love this product because it offers a lot more protection than a regular aftermarket diff cover would offer. So let me show you what I mean by that. As you can see, this sort of fits. Imagine if the differential's sitting right here. This provides you coverage on the bottom of the differential all the way up into the front of the differential. And you can see here, I have fully utilized this protection and it's worked great. One of the things I really like about the front protection on this is it's at a slight angle. So if, you know, maybe I'm not paying attention on the trail and I managed to get a rock right underneath the center of the vehicle, well, this ramp or this angled lip on the front of the skid plate allows you to sort of scrape up over a rock and lifts it rather than just bashes it straight on. So I just think it's a really well-designed product. It's very easy to install. You only need to have a few tools. So let's go over what you'll need right now. Obviously, this will come with all the required hardware. As far as tools go, you'll need a 3/4 inch deep socket, socket wrench, of course. A box end wrench is great. Again, 3/4 inch. I actually couldn't find my 3/4 inch. It's buried in a toolbox, I'm sure. So I'm using a 19 millimeter, which is more or less the same. I like to have an extension on hand. It just makes it a little bit easier when you're underneath the Jeep. And then you are going to want a torque wrench. The primary reason for that is this clamp that you put on the front, in front of the differential, you need to be very careful not to over tighten it. So the front clamp bolt's torque spec is 50 foot-pounds, and of course that's what will set this torque wrench to. All right, let's hop under the Jeep, get this thing installed. I'll bet it takes us less than 10 minutes. Obviously, make sure you have it oriented in the correct direction. Grab your hardware here. And we'll start with the U-bolts. So you'll see on this rear skid plate, it has a spot that's gonna rest on the axle tube. So we'll set that in there. Just like that. The U-bolts will come in from behind. Just like that. Then you'll just repeat that process for this side. Okay, Now you take the clamp, and you'll see this clamp has an open notch right here. This notch is going to face toward the rear of the vehicle, and it fits nicely on the differential. Take these bolts and get these started by hand. Come to the other side here. We've already hand tightened the U-bolts, but we aren't going to cinch those down until we get this front clamp set in position. So I'm going to use my 3/4 inch socket and a box end wrench to tighten these up evenly, alternating from each side. Once they get snug, I'll switch out my socket wrench for my torque wrench and go ahead and make sure that these do not exceed 50 foot-pounds. So we've got our torque wrench set to 50 foot-pounds. I'm just gonna make sure that both sides of these alternating, I slowly work my way up to 50 foot-pounds. And a nice trick with this box end wrench is you can actually run it up against the axle tube, and that way you don't have to hold onto it with your other hand. And again, we are just alternating back and forth because we don't want to over tighten one side over the other. So we've torqued the front clamp on there to spec. Now I'm just going to tighten these rear U-bolts up to snug. Again, you want to go back and forth so you're relatively even on the threads on both sides of these. Just snug is good. So that's good. All right, so the install is as simple as that. I like to grab a paint marker and I'll mark the bolts so that I can check it relatively easily and make sure nothing's worked itself loose. As you can see, that rear diff skid plate provides a lot more coverage and protection for your rear differential. So my recommendation is before you buy a rear diff cover, think about other options that maybe have an integrated skid plate or something like that Metalcloak rear diff skid that just provides some additional coverage and you don't have to worry about taking off your rear diff cover. And with that, thanks for joining us today. I hope you enjoyed the video. As always, have fun out there, be safe, and please stay on the trails. We'll see you next time.